You're listening to the Warlord Radio Podcast.
It's way more than
I love it when people inappropriately get pissed up at events. Like, I played with the Scotalites one time in front of one of the fucking rowdiest crowds ever. Just this, like, band of old ska dudes, like second wave ska guys. And just the fucking rowdiest college kids ever. They were so fucking hammered. It was great.
There you go.
Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Oh, welcome to Warlord Radio.
Hey, what's this?
Episode...
More than 4.
More than 4. Significantly more than 4.
Right.
We're up in the 30s?
We're up in the 30s. How'd that happen?
I'm gonna guess it's 37.
Right.
If you're right, it actually might be.
Alright, so let me think. I think technically this will be 34.
34, okay.
Could be wrong.
Well, we are crushing it.
Yeah.
Today we have a very special guest. She is a poet. She is an artist, musician, documenter of tiny couch interviews, leather worker, pelter. Is that the proper term?
Pelter.
Pelter.
I pelt things.
Pelter, yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet.
But Emma Ricks. Hello, Emma. How are you?
Hey, Emma.
Oh, hey guys. How you doing?
Thanks for coming out to our little show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Shout out to you for wearing the Rod of Obsidian shirt, by the way.
Absolutely, I represent. I think
Absolutely.
they're gonna be in here soon. Right?
Yes, they are. They got a new album to promote.
Local Legends Woo.
The Local Legends Woo. Those guys, you can tell them I said this. What I love about them is they are playing such difficult notes that they don't move on stage. They're frozen, and it's amazing. Like, only their arms move. Their bodies are completely still.
Andrew will throw in some headbangs.
That's true. Andrew does. He's quite the showman. But it's like, it's really funny to watch him. And I've told him this before. I'm like, I know that the part is difficult for you when your legs lock up. Like, if you're just not moving your legs at all, I know that that's a hard run.
Yeah.
And I have much respect for that.
And they have a new album coming out soon.
Yes, and we're going to promote that.
Yeah.
But today we're talking to Emma about what I was really interested in bringing you in was to talk about your poetry. Mm-hmm. But then I kind of stalked your Facebook a little bit to do homework, and I realized that you're much more interesting than that. So we're going to have some of your poetry on with your permission, because there's a couple of them that I'd like our audience to listen to, because I think they're really good. But how's it going? Let's just jump in there. How was your day?
Today was good. It was work, actual work, and so that kind of wasn't my favorite. But I get to do this, so now it's looking up, obviously, because a lot of life is work and then trying to fit in all the art stuff around it and into it.
So what boring work stuff do you have to do?
I'm a pharmacy technician.
Right on.
Boring isn't quite the right word.
I only say that because my work is boring. So I say
That's fair.
I say that sympathetically.
Today was
My
boring.
work tries to murder me with gravity often.
Mm-hmm.
But what does a pharmacy technician do? Because
So a pharmacy technician, basically, most people can assume they count pills, which is true. You do that, but you also receive prescriptions, type up prescriptions, note mistakes that you see, call doctors, verify if they're okay or not okay.
so it's a lot of shipping and receiving.
Talking to insurance, which is a horrendous thing to do. And then giving people either really good or bad news, which is the worst part of the gig, for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine,
finding loopholes where you can within legal bounds.
Yeah.
And that's gratifying.
That's decent of you.
Today was slow enough, though, that we were talking about the whole felting thing. I really want to, so felting is where you take wool, and there are 2 different routes. You can either use water and soap to basically take this really loose fibers and kind of knot them together through repetitive motion and water, or you can stab it with this little needle tool with ridges on the side. So you stab it.
Sounds therapeutic as hell.
It's very therapeutic. And we were talking about how to be in a public place, but then also kind of keep people from talking to you. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to talk to you when it looks like you're stabbing a realistic animal, or they do.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's one of the.
I was like, you're in the wrong room. I'd be like,
yeah.
No, it's just
what kind of critter is
You guys
that?
would probably be like, what are you doing? And other people are just like, I'm not talking to her.
Right.
But on that note, so basically I'm creating what you would imagine maybe Muppets or puppets would look like. Mm-hmm. You can either do really hyper-realistic stuff, because as you're stabbing it, it's causing all these fibers to knot in on themselves. So it's kind of like when you go to get your hair dreaded, they're doing the same thing. They're knotting together your hair until it's one big
Basically kneading it like bread almost.
Yeah, but you do it with actually a needle. So I've been working on things like that, and one thing I've been entertaining is creating possibly a video series where I turn them more into like puppet type creatures.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Totally should.
Yeah.
I want to audition for that show. I'm just throwing that
You
out
can
there.
definitely. No, and I thought about it how like I'll start it small with like tiny little skits and shit, but then maybe bring in other artists and do other things like that as it grows larger. Because one thing I've made is like a caterpillar. It looks like a caterpillar, but it's a cat. And so like all of its like little legs are actually paws, and like it's got ears,
Right.
and all these crazy colors.
Caterpillar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I can rig it the right way, I can probably make it move or do some like stop motion stuff if I wanted to, which I've never done before. But that's like kind of the next thing I want to get into.
Stop motion, I've always been really interested in stop motion, but every single person I've ever talked to that's done it is like, this is the most labor intensive shit I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Every time I think about it, I think I keep coming back to I just want to tie strings on it, make it look derpy as shit, like kind of make it like bounce around and do stuff like that. So I've been like putting together potential episodes that they could be.
That'd be great.
Yeah, like one could be, why aren't caterpillars in the dictionary? And so it'll be the caterpillar kind of looking in the dictionary first. First it finds cats, well then it finds caterpillars, but it can't find itself, and so it kind of goes through this like existential situation.
Right.
And then like calls Webster's dictionary, it's like, why am I not in here? And I don't know, stupid shit like that.
No, that's awesome. I love existential crisis, especially if it's coming out of something cute.
I'm this, I'm that,
Right.
but I'm not in here.
The more adorable it is, the more I want it to doubt its own existence. You know what I mean? Like, that's great.
It's got like a really grumpy face too, so I think it'll work out well.
What got you into wanting to make puppets?
I just wanted to. I really like the Muppets, say.
Me too. I'm a huge Muppets nerd. I'm a huge Jim Henson Project in general nerd.
Oh yeah. So I got into the felting thing because it looked like fun, and then when you realize it's just like sculpting, but more therapeutic, because you're just like constantly stabbing something, then you're just like, well, I could do so much more with this. I can make my own puppets. So that's like the next step to that, basically.
That's awesome.
It's like it's entertaining a portion of your more erratic mind in a way that's actually relatable, or if not enjoyable for others.
No, I appreciate when you can turn your own mental illness into a fucking fun hobby that entertains people. It's all I've done for years now.
Right.
But yeah, no, what's weird, because I'm kind of like that when I get into projects, I hyper focus on shit. So it's either like, I don't give a fuck about this pile of whatever, or I will sit there for like 6 hours with a piece of clay and try and get an eyebrow right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I can certainly appreciate that kind of a nature. And like, I just, the patience that it takes to do something like that. Like, how long does it take to build a decent puppet?
It does take a long time. By the time this comes out, my sister won't hear it, I don't think. I won't let her hear it because I'm just going to say it. I'm making a replica of her cat.
No.
But like the head itself is about like size of 2 golf balls morphed into a different shape. And that took about like 4 or 5 hours. But when you start to see it come together, then it's like really gratifying.
Well, it's like any other artistic pursuit. Like, if it's going the right way and the pieces are falling in place, like, you get this fire lit under your ass, and like the next thing you know, you look up and it's 5 hours later. You know what I mean? So I mean, like, that makes sense. I just sit there and carve out fucking each individual hair on this thing's head, though. Just sounds so like intense, honestly.
You'll stab yourself many different, constantly, because like they've got finger guards.
Yeah.
I just don't use them, because
you like to live on the edge.
yeah. I like to make really tiny, cute things, but also have the
bleed
wrist.
on my puppets.
How did you get started doing the first one? Did you see like a video and you were like, oh, I'd do that, or somebody tell you about
like,
it? Like
you've seen people have probably seen 1 or 2 like for sale on Etsy or elsewhere and wonder like, how the hell do you make something like that? It just kind of doesn't make sense. And so one time I looked into it a little bit further and I was like, okay, what does a kit start at? And it's like $15 on Amazon. I'm like, oh, I can't get into this.
Right.
And so I bought it and I started doing it. I was like, this is really nice. And then someone saw me doing it and was like, can you make a replica of my friend's dog for Christmas? And I was like, that's it. I'll make a bunch of extra money for Christmas to buy gifts for people instead of actually just making the gifts for people from the get-go, because how does that work?
You became your own middleman.
Yes, it was terrible.
That's great.
I'm not a great economist. Yeah, so I kept making people's animals for them.
high demand for that? I mean,
there is a high demand for it.
I don't want that to sound doubtful. It's just like a lot of people were like, I really want a puppet,
Right.
my dog.
Could we get like something like? Could we commission like something like really dark and pagan?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
Seriously?
I can make masks. I can make giant like just demonic masks out of wool, and it can get like super crazy realistic.
Well, welcome to the fold. We're gonna
Thank
get you to make us some stuff.
Right.
We like rad shit.
Yeah.
I want a little weird pagan puppet. I would freak people out with that fucking
yeah,
thing.
That's what I'm
Definitely.
thinking.
Like a little deer head skull marionette to walk
Like
around
the-
Krampus Fest and scare the
like
shit out of little kids with.
We can do that.
What was it like the eight-legged deer beast in Ritual?
Yeah, man, that thing was awesome.
People were, what was it? I think our friend Sean was just like, he's showing me these like dark comics they have, like they're renderings of Garfield that are just like, I crave lasagna, John.
Right,
It's like
very
this
creepy.
Yeah, it's super creepy. It's like, okay, I can see it.
There's this guy that took out all of Garfield's dialogue from the comic strips, and so it's just about like the mental breakdown of John Arbuckle. It's so dark without the context.
Right.
Like I just, you should look that up because it gets like real creepy, like Kafka-esque shit without Garfield's dialogue. And there, he just seems to be force feeding this cat lasagna.
Yeah.
The true need for comic relief and what it means when you don't have it.
Exactly. It's just all of the dark parts of life with none of the relief. It's just a single white male alone in his house freaking the fuck out while his cat just stares at him.
Well, I mean, that is the mirror image of like darkness or like horrific material and comedy. Is they're right next to each other. It's like the same action, and then it's just interpretation. And if you look at it one way, it's hilarious. And if you look at it another way, it's extremely scary or depressing.
It's crushing.
Yeah.
I think that's why all the best comedy always comes from like a really dark place, usually.
Well, I would argue that that's why a large number of comics have a really dark side, and a large number of people that create like dark, twisted art have a very light side because they're getting a lot of that out and they're expressing it. So it's like common. It's like horror movie directors, actors, special effects people, like some of the nicest, most polite people you could ever possibly meet. Like Clive Barker is one of the nicest people you could ever meet, and he comes up with the most twisted shit. Or someone like Jim Carrey has like this dark side that he wants to express because people know him as Ace Ventura.
What are you saying? Because like my whole job is to be the comic relief of this show. Are you saying I'm dark and twisted for real?
No.
I think I'm a fucking sunshiny rainbow person. But
Just because you're wearing a shirt that says "I am the darkness with no soul."
this is your band shirt.
Did you dress him?
It has happened before.
That's friendship.
Besides doing an awesome puppet show that I totally want in on, and have invited myself to at this point, like what else do you have going on right now? Because you're always working on something, it seems.
Well, so I graduated from college last year. And
Congratulations.
Right on. Here at UNT?
it was a TWU actually.
Gotcha.
And which was a grueling process for me personally because you like just like everybody else is working full time and then they're going to school and there's like hardly any time for creative anything. So once I graduated,
let alone sleep.
or
super
sleep.
tough.
What's that? No, but so when that happened, it was just kind of like, okay, Emma, you gotta get in the game, Emma. You gotta do the freaking thing, Emma. And so I've been creating ever since then, and it's come out in poetry or dance or
I didn't
music.
even know you were a dancer. How long have you been dancing?
Technically since I was 14, for belly dancing, like not as continuously as some people, but if anything it teaches you how to dance because it's not based off of choreography so much as it is how to move to certain things. So that's been really
I have a soft spot
liberating.
in my heart for belly dancers. I grew up in Renfest, and so ISIS in the start
So did I.
area. So like I've known those ladies like my entire life. So I'm the kind of like if you ever talk shit about a belly dancer or like started messing one without not you personally. I'm just saying.
You're looking right at me, like
No, like drunk assholes at Ren fairs and shit. Like
people mess with belly dancers?
Fuck yeah, they do. And I don't even work for the Ren Fair. I've bounced people out of belly dance shows. It's like, no, she's not a stripper. Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
It fucking pisses me off. But and my point was, I have a very soft spot in my heart for belly dancers. Don't mess with them.
I don't know. And I think, and I have a mad respect for strippers too, personally.
Yeah, that's a fucking hard job, man.
That's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
Most people can't do that.
Some people have breakdowns over working the grill at Burger King, and nobody is putting a boner on you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's a rough job. Like, respect your exotic dancers. That's not what I was going with that, but I'm just saying.
But no, like, seriously, the dancing in general is, like, super fun, super cool. Connects you on a different level of music as well. Because you don't just get to produce it. You don't just get to listen to it. You get to move with it. And kind of, I don't know, that's...
Well, it's dancing kind of stimulates all of your senses, you know what I mean? And the same thing with like, not necessarily listening to music, but performing music live is, because I'm not much of a dancer, but I've been playing live for a while. But I mean, like, everything from like feeling the music in the floor go like into your feet. And, you know, it's just kind of all around to smelling the crowd because nobody's wearing fucking deodorant. And sometimes tasting them.
Have you seen clips of the black metal belly dancer?
No.
Do you know what
I think I know who you're talking about.
I don't know her name, but
There's several of them, though.
I'm sure there
you're
is.
talking about.
I've seen a couple of clips of the same one that was actually in a short clip of a Norwegian black metal documentary. But yeah, there's I'm sure a group of ladies out there that belly dance to black metal or Norwegian black metal specifically.
That's awesome.
So they've timed out like the hyper fast blast beats and things like that. It's crazy. It's awesome.
Like, you have people like, you can't dance to that music, and then the belly dancers come in and they're like, oh yeah, we can.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, dude, nobody has more control over their fucking hips and midsection than a belly dancer. It's fucking the muscle groups that are isolated in that style of dancing is fucking insane.
Right.
And dude, there's some like really prominent dude ones too, which is like super cool. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're male belly dancers, and they're
I had
phenomenal.
not heard of them.
They're not as common, but there are a few. There's a couple of local guys that I've seen a couple of times that are very good.
Yeah.
They know what the hell they're doing, and they're very entertaining. And it's also, they make fucking good old boys at the Ren Fest squirm, and that is funny as shit to me.
Right.
So that kind of stuff's really cool.
Right on. Yeah, very cool.
There's that stuff.
Did you primarily focus on belly dancing, or did you utilize any other styles or anything like that?
I mean, I did ballet when I was younger because like they're like, this is a good idea. I'm like, no, it's not. And I don't know. I don't remember. One of my friends got into the belly dancing class around here. There's Kathy Barton, Travis's mom.
Yeah, Travis actually was the first guest on this show.
Really?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Let's bring it right back around. His mom teaches belly dancing, and she's a badass.
It has been for years. She's
Yeah.
very accomplished.
Yeah.
I mean, damn. She's probably been doing that for 20 years.
Yeah, she longer than that.
Is it longer than
Pretty
that?
sure longer than that. But yeah, she's been doing it for a long time. She started in the whenever it was Voyager's Dream over
Yeah.
on Fry Street. There was a back room, and that's where they held belly dancing classes, and that's where I started.
So Fry Street used to be this weird little collective of like skids and street punks and hippies and weirdos and shit. And it was really fun, and there was
I
a
miss Fry
mechanic
Street.
down there.
And that's what it was.
And now it's like a CVS and some condos and shit.
Yeah.
I saw some of the craziest shit on my life happen on Fry Street. I watched Lundy Knight rip the door off a cop car.
Oh wow!
It was fucking awesome.
Where were the cops at this moment?
Beating his ass.
Yeah. We just like ripped the door off and threw it at him.
No, they were like mid beating his ass, and he just grabbed the door and twisted it off like it was made of fucking paper.
Right.
It was.
I don't know. He was on this fucking adrenaline
I was gonna
high.
say, adrenaline's a hell of a drug.
It is. So,
What kind of music do you like to belly dance to?
That can really depend, because there's nothing too specific.
Mhm.
It's fun, like say when you get with a group of belly dancers, they're open-minded to different things to dance to.
Mhm.
Because really, so long as you can find portions of the song and the movement of music for what you're trying to build, it's kind of limitless. So that's a bit tough. Like, we danced to a Tom Waits song, Clap Hands.
I love that song, yeah.
For a Halloween show at Andy's last year.
Oh, right.
I
Yeah.
was at that show, actually. I think I watched you guys do that, maybe.
Yeah, there was like a witch doctor and then skeletons.
Yeah, I did
That was
one.
us.
Okay, cool.
And, so like you can do things like that. Once again, you can dance to metal. I wanted to do some stuff. Oh gosh, drawing a blank. So several different Winter's Gate, that album, there's been a few that I've wanted to. What's the first name? I'm running blank. It'll come back to me in a second. But you know, you can do lots of stuff. Like you can do folky stuff if you want to. I wanted to do certain things to like Iron and Wine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be some cool stuff to do dances
really
to.
Cool. There's a huge set that does a lot of like Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a whole Celtic style to it, right? Or is it just traditional belly dancing just done to Celtic music?
Well, I mean, basically, and a lot of the belly dancing movement has come from westernization of it, because actually, from its origin, you don't tend to expose that much of your body, but you do tend to do a lot of like really intense isolations and muscle specialized movements, but less of the exposure. That came with the westernization of it all.
That makes sense.
What's the origins of it?
There's like Egyptian, Indian,
Persian
sure. Also. There's it's kind of like
I say because
there's
there's all
different styles
three very
too.
different groups.
Yeah,
it is. But
and they've got different styles too, and there's certain movements that are named like an Egyptian this or Egyptian that. It comes from the Egyptian origin, so that's where they take that like move from, and they continue to use it. But then you'll see people do things like tribal fusion, which is where it starts to deviate away from those initial movements and go more into the exploration of the dance itself as a basically new art form.
It was originally a religious dance, correct? Wasn't it? It was like a temple dance.
I want to say yes. There were some that were very specifically like temple, and for religious purposes and worship, and some were for entertainment, obviously.
Yeah. Well, ritual's half entertainment, like,
and that's true.
Yeah, that's like,
but
it's all about conditioning.
I know there are
a
few dances, or like just like with anything that has kind of religious origins, that are specified for specific places and only for those places, and they're not supposed to leave those places. So I know there are certain dances like that exist.
Interesting.
Yeah, they aren't really supposed to be like publicly done. There, if you go and witness it at the place, then it's special for that. So there's stuff like that too.
Right on. Very cool.
That'd be really cool to witness. Is just like a dance or a performance of any kind, really, that just most people don't get to lay their eyes on. It's something that's probably been refined over like centuries. You know what I mean? It's probably pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah, I think anything. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but you know, just that kind of underground aspect of it. Is I think you're going to, by and large, see more interesting things that way. I mean, that's really, like what we do is fairly underground.
You gotta be there.
A lot of the stuff that you do, I'm sure, is fairly underground. And that's where you see like the real interesting stuff. I mean, there's plenty of cool stuff that is a little more mainstream. But like the really interesting stuff that's going to grab you is going to be you kind of adventure out and discover it.
Well, it's part of like the whole process. It's not even just the viewing of the piece. It's like going to the place and meeting the people involved in the piece. You know what I mean? It's like a whole event.
And seeing that there is a culture around it.
Sure.
You know, like getting introduced to that.
One thing that's always been fun about Denton is that even if it's not from here, it tends to eventually get some like eclectic, bands and things like that from other areas. One was, I think, was it Kidnapped by Robots?
Surrounded
by Robots. Yeah. That was a really fun show.
That was a fun show. Denton has always been like that. So it's like if psychobilly's a thing now, well, Denton's got psychobilly bands.
Yeah.
Like if it's ska, like I've been in a third wave ska band, a psychobilly band, and like I've been in a little.
So psychobilly's on the rebound here.
I don't know if it is now, but I had a blast doing it. Psychobilly was fun.
I got you.
But it's Denton is so weird. It's just like and it's not even necessarily based on any kind of trend. It's just if something catches an artist's eye, it makes its way in somewhere in this town. You know what I mean? And it used to be, I think, a little more prominent. You have to know where to look now. It used to just be you could see weird shit on the street, and that's becoming a little less and less. But there are still pockets in Denton where they keep good art.
As an aside, one of the things I like about a good psychobilly or rockabilly band is that the bass player is normally one of the highlights of the show.
That was
almost all of those guys are badass.
Yes.
And it's like metal shows, like guitar player, drummer. And
I don't necessarily have to be there at a metal show. I can just take off.
But like rockabilly, psychobilly, it's like
it's
kind of the
very
bass. It's like those guys are kind of the lead. because you have more simple guitar lines.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Sorry if this seems like obtuse.
No.
Psychobilly versus rockabilly, what's the difference?
Just the style, the subject matter.
Okay.
Yeah, psychobilly
That's really good.
tends to deal with much darker subject matter, and in turn will often they do a lot more like major to minor shifts, whereas
Okay.
regular traditional rockabilly is just major to major
close to
key.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's that kind of
makes
thing.
sense.
And then there's some like different techniques that have been kind of become like staples of psychobilly rather than rockabilly, but it's a really theatrical show usually, and it's one of those spectacle genres. And I totally love that shit. Just anything that's larger than life, I want to see it.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I know there's purists. To me, it's in a good way. They're similar. It's kind of like the difference between punk and horror punk.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's like the Misfits are punk,
Yeah.
but they're not exactly like the Cro-Mags or Agnostic Front or something like that.
exactly.
In a lot of ways, with like Necromantics or
No, there's subtle differences, but there are
Ghoul
some,
Town,
yeah.
that type of
Ghoul
thing.
Town's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But I tend to skew towards darker subject matter and
Yeah,
things
absolutely.
like that. So, and I like to experiment with music. Somebody was trying to talk me.
Has your dad ever done a psychobilly band? Because he seems like a natural for that.
No, but when
As do you. Like,
you met, when did you meet Bone Doggy? It was fucking years ago, right?
It was years ago.
Was he still in the Hellraisers?
He was still in the Hellraisers, yeah.
Okay, so before you met me, the Hellraisers proper was like almost like dark masquerade shit.
what? Yeah, I remember seeing one show like that. So
Yeah, but I mean, it was there was a time where we were real heavy on that like kind of darker image, it's almost goth, but not really because it's still Bone Doggy being
Yeah.
himself. But you remember he used to wear like top hats. He looked like Alice Cooper kind of.
well, I remember
Yeah.
that. Like,
He-
I remember that he did.
He wore things like that. I only got to go to like a few of the shows. I would have gone to a lot more, but
It reminded me of like a white screaming Jay Hawkins.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's what he was going for. You should tell him that if nothing else smiles
I
on
will.
your face.
I will.
Oh.
I don't know quite how to explain exactly what that band was.
It's really hard because it was
Yeah.
like there were influences like gypsy punk in there and like traditional
Which makes
Romani
sense.
music, which was fucking in all over that
Yeah.
stuff because that's what I was listening to, and but it was more
Heavy
so
storytelling in a way.
yeah, that transcends. That's just something that Colemans do.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, but like how long have you been playing? Because you play a couple of different instruments, correct?
Yeah, I've been playing a long time, but not like with any band or anything, and that's also been kind of like a new thing to get into for me. I've been playing piano since I was in middle school, but it was at a private school. There wasn't like a proper music program. In fact, the music program shut down because there just wasn't enough to hold it up. I went to Selwyn here in town.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, this is like for as expensive as it was.
It's weird that the music program would fold in a music town. Your face kind of says it all, but yeah, you're right.
It was the place. Like we were using floppy disks well into when everyone was like using USBs and stuff like
Shit.
that. And I'm not kidding. I'm just like, where are we? What is this? Am I going to school every day? I am. I'm learning. But what is this?
Am I learning?
Actually?
I'm running this Linux system.
we were called the Unicorns.
The unicorn.
Yeah, if that helps or it doesn't help. We were called the Unicorns. Basically had no sports program to speak of aside from competing with other private schools.
Your school mascot's supposed to be kind of fierce, and I mean, like, unicorns have righteous horns, but they're still just beautiful, majestic creatures.
I suggested heavily that we put blood on the horn or put something on it, like it skewed through something. Like, oh,
Make the unicorn more intimidating.
I'm going to present this suggestion every year until I graduate, which was also the year that the school burnt down,
Oh shit!
and then they moved to Argyle. So now they're
Why
there.
does everybody assume the unicorn's got like the one perfectly pointy? Why wouldn't it look like a ram's horn or something like
That
that?
would be so gnarly, yeah.
Or it could be like an antler where it like branches out or something.
That'd be really cool
As
too.
fuck too. Hell yeah, man! You should redesign the unicorn. No, have you seen that? Like, there's this prehistoric creature. I can't remember what it's called, but Ziggy, our lead singer's obsessed with it. But it's like, it looks like it's like an ancestor to a rhinoceros. It's goddamn huge. It's like the size of a truck, and it has like a 4-foot horn on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's weird because it's got like hoof toes. I don't know. He sent me this whole article. I wish if I had known that if I had known the conversation was going to shift towards unicorns.
There's no predicting where any of these are going to
I can't remember what this thing's called, but if he was here right now, he'd be screaming it in my face. But this thing is so fucking metal looking. Like, it looks like something out of the Savage Land and X-Men.
Right.
Like, it just looks like it will fuck shit up. And he's like, if this thing comes running through the woods, get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
So maybe, that would have been a good mask.
That's what we should have changed.
The giant Helmsworth rhino or whatever the fuck.
That's what it was. It was basically a lot of land, slowly disintegrating buildings from the 70s when the school first started as a boarding school, and then this musical program that was like floundering and eventually died. Right. So I played piano there, and I've played some guitar as well. But most of the piano has been like self-learned. Like, we started with a few books.
Yeah, learn your basics. Yeah,
it was really uncomfortable because we had like a piano room, okay, and we would have like group piano classes. And so they had these old ass electric pianos that were all kind of like in a circle together.
Group piano class?
Yeah.
That sounds so noisy.
No, but it wasn't. And here's why: because you put on headsets.
Okay, cool.
And like listen to yourself play, and then the teacher could tune into what you were playing at that time, which is eerie and uncomfortable. Not a very like creatively organic environment, which just wasn't supposed to be. And so I've never had very long fingers compared to like other people. So other people moved up and also didn't practice as much as probably should have. I'll be honest there. But that's besides the point.
Just outed yourself.
Like, I don't give a fuck about hot cross buns.
I didn't. And so they so basically I stopped playing what they were giving me music book wise and started playing what I wanted to play.
Sweet.
And this was after like the music teacher had kind of
checked out,
at least for me, because I didn't have long graceful ass fingers.
Yeah.
And then one day like tuned in and was like, this is really good, what are you doing? I'm like, don't act like you're interested now, motherfucker. This is mine. And so I've been kind of playing like that ever since, which has been good. It's been like really gratifying. So
yeah,
I can't read music for shit.
I can't either. And that you get yelled at for that in the metal scene sometimes. Those guys get uppity. But I think I've seen you play piano on like a YouTube video or something.
That was
like
Tiny
that.
Couch. Yeah,
okay, yeah, that's what that was. Yeah, I did watch that, and then I've seen you play guitar, and you did a couple of originals, right? Because I mean,
I only played originals.
Okay, cool.
I think I can play. What can I play? That's not mine. It's Nights in White Satin.
Okay.
Because that's simple enough to hear out.
Right.
But other than that, that's all I can play on the guitar that's not mine.
Okay, so you basically, like, any music you play is completely from the ground up you. That's awesome. That's very impressive. So like, do you, here's a question, because I'm a fan of your poetry. Do you write the music first, or do you write the lyrics first?
That completely depends. Like, sometimes it's like, it's a real like butcher's work job of something. Like, I might have written a melody 5 years ago in middle school, earlier than middle school, that I've just kind of kept in my memory bank and has never made sense for anything at all until I come up with the right words, or I play it again, and suddenly at this point in my life it makes more sense than it did then. Other times I'll like write an entire song lyrically and then find notes to it. Other times I'll have a more recent kind of like song composed musical portion, and then I'll write to it. And then there's just so much that's like stuck in limbo still that I want to do something with, but I haven't made the right connect.
So that'll come out. I do, because I do songwriting and a little bit of poetry, and it's like, I will kick something in my head 5-6 years, and then like one day it'll just like come out on the page all at one time or whatever like that. So, I mean, the writing process is a very strange thing, because it never ever fires off when you need it to, or it's convenient. It's always at like 3 a.m. and you're like, oh shit, I just figured out my entire life.
Yeah. Or it's like you're in the middle of helping someone with an insurance problem and someone's screaming at you for something you can't help, and you're like, wait,
hang on, I have a really good idea.
I have to write a song about honoring the Fae.
Fuck off with murder.
my thumb fell off. 1 second, I'm running. You know, just so things like that will kind of hit you. I do have one to like be in a band really bad, but then that's just all the more extra time that you don't necessarily have.
And it's
because sometimes I wonder if some of these things won't manifest as well as they would if they had the proper accompaniment or other people.
Can I give you like a piece of advice?
Yes.
Don't listen to it.
No, this is fucking solid advice, and you're totally gonna agree with me. You're gonna fucking high five me after this. If you decide to start a band, keep it fucking small at first, because the more people you have in there, the more convoluted that's going to get, and the harder it's going to be to get everybody together.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I would keep you as like a lead instrument and the vocalist, and then get like somebody that plays like a decent either a bass to hold it down. But I mean, if you're playing piano, you really don't need a bass. You could get like a cool lead guitar player, and then you get somebody on rhythm, and just keep it simple as shit, man. Because once you start getting into like 4 or 5 different people, you have to like move that places.
Sure. I was thinking like a max of 3, to be honest with you.
That's perfect. For
I think you should
kind of thing.
play piano in like a symphonic black metal band.
That would be pretty fucking rad too.
I would love to do that.
That'd be amazing.
I want to start
Do some
black metal band.
See? You got a bass player, you got a piano player, keyboards.
I got the dudes from Lament Configuration. I want to be in a black metal band too.
Yeah, Joe will do drums.
Corpse paint is mandatory in this band, though. Like, if you don't wear corpse paint, you are fucking out.
I'll tattoo it on my face.
That is awesome. I appreciate your commitment to the project.
Permanent.
So,
Band breaks up. Well, this sucks.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm happy with my decision.
so you've been writing. Have you been writing songs since you pretty much started to play piano, or is that also a recent thing?
No, that's been since the start of piano playing, and same with guitar stuff. I don't know, it's just it just kind of happens naturally. It's kind of like a pull. You just do it. I know that sounds like kind of stupid, where some people are like, how long does it take for you to think about this or that? Half the time it's more just kind of reactional.
Yeah. It's art.
Yeah, it's art. That's just it. And I guess that's one of those things too. I've had like a lot of hesitation through my life to put it out there, but also I had not had enough time to like really hone it in before I present it to people. But at the end of the day, it's not like I'm going to be like, well, what's your opinion about this? Oh, that's your opinion? Well, it's not changing, so.
That's so true. That's a very poignant statement, because I spend a lot of time like trying to hammer a piece to where it's perfect, you know what I mean? Like, I get like really into the minutia of everything, and then at the end of the day, after I present it, I really don't give a fuck if people like it or not. That sounds horrible, but if I'm satisfied with it, then
that's really all that matters.
Yeah, because that means it's done.
And then you have things like or people that are like art critics, but that still doesn't technically matter.
No.
The only time that actually matters is to maybe other people who might possibly listen to your music or already have. And
I mean, it would matter to like if I had a fan come up to me and be like, "Your new album blows," I would like, that does kind of sting.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think that would hurt more than. I mean, I guess all I'm saying is it's not something you can ask for pointers for.
No. You have to kind of feel it out and like develop your own style and hone your own skill.
And I have a dim view of critics anyway. I mean, like the professional critic, it's like that's their job, is critiquing other people's work.
I did it for a month. It's soul sucking.
It's just
fucking.
It's just a parasitic existence to me. It's like you're feeding off of the work of somebody else. And the existence of most of these people is to just feed back negative energy onto what people slaved over. And it's just like, so what are your qualifications? Because that's the thing, is that
nobody's got fucking
there's no qualifications to be a critic. Anybody can be a self-styled critic. And it's just like, shut the fuck up. Nobody gives a fuck about your opinion.
And I guess and I wonder if you guys as obvious music lovers too, when someone's like, what did you like about my music? Then I find myself kind of stammering in that I just really like it.
I try not to do that. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, what part did you like the best? That's a shitty thing to do to somebody. I'm just like, hey, thank you for liking it. High five. We're good.
What's your favorite song? The one that made me dance like no one was watching. That's the best thing.
That's your takeaway from it. That's fine. No, man, there are people that do that though. They're like, oh yeah. What was your favorite lyric? It's like, I don't know. There was a large man sweating on me, right in front of me, just throwing his fucking giant head around, Baby Huey style. I don't know, man. People are strange, especially artists. Artists are very, very strange.
Yeah, artists are weird.
So you haven't released a whole lot of what you've been doing for years, if I'm reading between the lines, and so releasing it to the public is a fairly new thing.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that gets me kind of hung up sometimes, is I've got a lot of friends that started really early, started doing open mics earlier, started really going after this stuff And so half the time I kind of look around like, where do I start? What do I do? I need to go to open mics. What do I need to have an open mic? I need an instrument. Okay, I've got one. I need a guitar strap because I don't want to just sit on the floor and do this or sit on a chair. Weird kind of things like that. And so that part gets a little bit intimidating. I would like to release an EP. That would be great. Not used to like being in a studio doing studio work all that much, so that part's kind of weird. Now it's more of like the technical stuff that's getting in my way more than it is the actual.
Yeah, but the technical stuff is interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because knowing how somebody learns to navigate that, like, is a huge part of who they are as an artist. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's
very
like,
true.
At least my view of any art, no matter what it is, like painting, sculpting, dancing, whatever, is you know, that everything is a part of it. It's not just the you know, the writing of the poetry, or it's not just of singing the melody or playing the bass line. That's an important part of it, don't get me wrong, but it's not the whole of it.
No.
The whole of it is the amount of practice that gets put into it, how you present it to the, you know, whatever audience that you're doing, like how you seek out like new avenues to get that out there. Is like, people have different ways of doing that, and the more unique the artist is, the more unique their take is on all that. And you know, it's like sometimes somebody excels at one thing that might to others seem minor, but it might be huge to somebody else. You know what I mean? So it's like somebody could, you know, like the Ramones can influence an ocean of bands because 4 guys got up and banged out these really rough songs that were so
9 albums of 3-chord rock and roll songs. Yeah, they were solid.
But it was great, and they influenced a million people doing that. You know, where the first show there's 20 people there.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But it was literally world changing because people had not seen that energy in what they were doing. You know, and it's the same thing. Like you could say the same thing about like a particular painter, about a particular writer, or whatever. But it's that little like behind the scenes struggle is all part of the art. Like that's literally like part of what you're presenting is part of what it takes to get there.
The anxiety you go through before you go on stage and before you present something is part of the art too. You know what I mean? It's all encompassing. Yeah. I don't know. I'm a little jealous of you, to be honest, because I've been doing this shit for so long that like releasing a new piece of art or something like that is still exciting, but it's not like world changing, which is kind of where you're at right now. It would seem to me is you're like changing your whole like the way you view your own art and that kind of thing. If you're just now starting to release it, so I'm jealous. Like it's really exciting what you're about or what you're doing, because I mean you've been doing, how long have you been doing Radio Free Dead now?
Not all that long actually. I think it's 6 months. 6 months.
Well, it's only been around for about a year, so I mean you've been there half the time.
Yeah, so that makes sense. About 6 months.
Because I mean that was what really got my attention of you, is because it's not just, I mean your actual poems are great. But I mean, it has a lot to do with like the rhythm of your voice, the delivery of the poem, the diction. I mean, like you're reading these things, like the fact that you actually have a speaking voice is nice. A lot of people don't.
Right.
So I mean, you seem to have a certain natural talent for that kind of thing. If that's not something that you've been like trying to hammer into place for the last 20 years, you're doing all right. But no, had a point, fucking lost it. No, just fucking drifted off. I'm just gonna kiss your ass for a minute and then go back to being quiet.
Enough of that. Is there anything that you view yourself as mostly? Do you view yourself mostly as a writer, as a dancer, as a musician, or is it just you don't view anything as your primary like background in the arts? Is just your a little bit of this, a little bit of that?
I'm gonna have to call it like a hodgepodge of just stuff.
Yeah. And
part of it is like repression. Mm-hmm. Like I said, when you go like that long, just kind of keeping all of your stuff to yourself for the most part. Mm-hmm. And then you finally find an opportunity that you're like, okay, I'm ready.
That's why. That's why I'm jealous. Is you are going through a personal renaissance, and that's fucking awesome.
No.
That was my point. Thank you. No, just derailed the whole thing now.
Too late now.
No, that's true.
Nobody cares.
Oh, I stuck it in there. Just derail what we were talking about now. Is there anything that you particularly find yourself focusing on more than the other thing?
Actually, and that's the worst part is because no. I've been trying to entertain all of them the best I can.
Yeah.
And that can be like extremely liberating and like fulfilling, but also extremely taxing at the same time because you don't want to put anything down.
Yeah.
You don't want to let anything get too cold.
You're also pouring like pieces of your soul into all of it, and by the end of it, you're drained. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like Andrew's been the best in the world because like I'll have like you're almost like a creative high for a while, and then you'll kind of reach that point where you're just like, oh my god. I think I gave all I had to give for at least this week, and then you're just like kind of a little bit of a mess. Like not even like not a psychopath, but you're definitely a depleted person. And you ramp back up again, but you do give all of yourself into something for a while, and you forget just how exhausting that is at the same time.
I would say you get used to that feeling after a while, but it does tend to be like that, just creating anything and then putting it out there.
When it comes to like some of the leather stuff or some of the felting stuff, though, like people are like, I really want one. How much is it's going to cost? I'm like, oh god, I got to put a price on something. Fuck. And then you have to. When you give them a price that's actually fair for what you're doing,
right?
Then they're just like, oh, is it really that much? I'm like, I've been stabbing this for hours.
It's just like
my blood in my hair is in this right now.
The way I look at it, because I would rather pay a little bit more from like a local artist, especially if it's quality. Because I mean, you're getting a one-of-a-kind piece from somebody that will probably not make this again. This isn't like some mass-produced thing, and it's not something that it's necessarily this person's specialty. You're getting a piece of art and not a product.
Right.
And so, yeah, and I get it from an artist standpoint. It is kind of hard to throw a price tag on something like that, especially the more labor-intensive it is. But I mean, when people don't ask for art unless you can pay for the fucking art. That shit drives me crazy.
Well, and here's like I don't know. It's pointless to argue with someone into buying something. You know, it's like it'll never work. But it's like for everybody, it's like, oh, I don't have any money on me. You have a fucking iPhone in your pocket. You can afford shit. Sorry.
To be fair, my boss pays for my iPhone.
Yeah, but you're also not the type to like, you know, check out someone's art and be like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, $20. No, I can't do that.
No, I'm more like,
you know what I mean?
$20 and here's fucking $5 extra. Get yourself some pastels.
Exactly. I'm talking about the cheapskate that's looking at your merch after you guys play. Shirts are $15.
I don't know,
I don't know. Like, meanwhile, they have $200 bar tab.
Right. And
that's
unless you go to a thrift store, where are you going to pay $15 for a shirt anyway?
I know, yeah. Clothes are fucking expensive, and this one's got an astronaut on it, you prick. But yeah, no, anytime you have to monetize art, I find it very difficult. That's why we have Jason in the band, because I have a hard time doing that. Not impossible, though. I will hustle when I have to, especially if I'm hungry. Mm-hmm. But I mean, how do you put, because I mean, something like a t-shirt,
yeah,
I have cost plus a markup. That's easy. That's a product. That's not the art. The art is the music. The art sells the fucking t-shirts. That's how that works. It's very depressing. But I mean, something like what you do where it's like you would be, say you had like a tangible piece of art you made, like a piece of leather work or fucking even a puppet.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because it's not just, you know, material plus time. It's also like how much time did you spend getting every detail just right? How much of yourself did you pour into this thing for this person to make sure that they got their money's worth? How much did you sacrifice to get it done? Because you have to, like, once you get down to crunch time, you have deadlines and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You have to let other shit go so you can finish that project. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, there's all these other shit, and then the person at the end is like, okay, yeah, you have to factor all that shit in on the spot, and they're like, hey, that's a cool bracelet, can you make me one? Mm-hmm. And then that entire equation storms around in your head for about a split second, and then you have to, like, spit out a number. Like, that's a difficult thing to do.
I'm not there yet. You know that, like, weird little, that gift that has the I don't know, middle-aged white blonde woman that's just kind of like slowly staring with all these like mathematical equations happening.
Yeah.
That's basically like what I find myself doing. Like, I want an answer now. What's this? I'm like,
I don't fucking know.
a cookie? I don't know.
Weather out. No, because I plan, after I saw your leather work, I need new garters for, new bracers rather for stage. So I'm going to hit you up because I want to support local art. And we're going to have one of those weird equation conversations, but I'm going to pay you for your shit.
Sweet. I'm sure we'll work something out. It'll be all good.
It's just, I don't know, that happens a lot, especially in performance. You know, you'll get, the exposure bucks.
Right.
Exposure bucks.
It's like, hey, you're banking player, cool. Like, do we get a piece of the door or the bar, or how's that work? It's like, oh no, man, but it's good exposure. It's like, you do that, I'll come to your club and expose myself to your entire fucking audience. You need to fucking pay me. It's like, if I'm doing something like Diesel Beast, because Diesel Beast is like, that's a shitload of money invested in that gear.
Right.
We travel.
Yes.
Like, it's a little different now. If I'm doing like singer-songwriter stuff around town, I might do a free show here or there, and I like doing charity shows, but for the most part, like, I have to, if I can't at least mostly get this shit to self-sustain a little bit, I don't necessarily need to generate a profit, but I need to at least break even so I can eat and pay my bills and shit.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and because it's time-consuming, and it's difficult, especially, I assume that you're somebody, the look on your face when you mime stabbing the felt, I just imagine like that you probably are a bit of a perfectionist.
At least to an extent.
Do you like to listen to music while you do it?
Yes and no. I tend to do it publicly.
Oh, okay.
I take a lot of projects to the bar with me.
So I love the fact that you will just sit there and stab felt in public. Like, that's great. Like, that's awesome.
And it really is funny when people approach you with interest but also caution, because they still haven't convinced themselves that you're not actually stabbing something real and alive or
How
dead.
fucked up would that be, though?
No, it's just like, so what's this? I'm like, well,
I want you to take up taxidermy and then just start. I want you to be that lady in Denton that does taxidermy at the bar. Like,
I found this specimen out the road and I just brought it in here, and now I'm gonna get started.
call him Herbie.
How about when you're writing poetry? Do you ever listen to music, or do you prefer it quiet?
That's also like a public space thing. It's the white noise. It's all the things going on around me kind of helps me zone in on myself. Because if I'm at home, I have the tendency to want to eat something and fall asleep. And so I'll tend to go to the bar. And I guess any music that's playing there, I'll listen to. But generally, when I'm actually trying to write something myself, I don't want to be... I tend to listen pretty closely to what I'm actually trying to listen to.
Right.
When I listen to music, I don't just always have it on to play.
Yeah.
It's because I'm like actively listening to it and enjoying the fact that I'm listening to it. So by the time I'm probably doing something more fixated, then I would rather it be like in the distance.
I was given a tip one time because I do the script writing for Radio Free Denton and stuff like that every now and then, and I like to have music on when I write, but if sometimes lyrics and things like that they'll interfere with what I'm trying to or with whatever idea I'm trying to get across. And I mean, listening to instrumentals is cool, but if you listen to like 4 hours of instrumentals, that shit can put you to sleep. And I was talking to this about, and somebody gave me the idea, they were like, listen to music with lyrics in it, but the lyrics are in a language that you don't understand. So you're still getting the tempo and rhythm of, a vocal melody and all of that. It kind of, when you have a vocal melody, it tends to be more out front and, it's made to grab attention. But you're not distracted by, whatever story or dialogue or whatever's going on in the song of the language you understand. I don't know. It was interesting. I tried it out and it worked.
Yeah.
Nice.
For me, it's like meditation. I end up tuning out everything anyway. So I can be in a quiet room or I can be in a loud room, but I just, blot it all out.
Scary strength of will, though. Like, I imagine when you write a song, you just stare at the paper and then the lyrics burn themselves into the page of hellfire.
I'm pretty caveman about it. I'm pretty stupid. Like, I'll just stare and beat my head against something until I get it right, and I'll just go and I won't quit.
Yeah. That sounds fucking brutal. I don't know. I'll get in those modes. Do you get in those modes? Like, you'll hit a stride when you're working on anything. And like we talked a little bit about that earlier, but I mean, like, you will just fucking obsess over this one part for fucking ever. And hammer it into shape and leave it alone for a minute, but then immediately come back to it because you can't stop fucking thinking about it. And yeah, I don't know, that's how I work. Just mostly anxiety and flop sweat.
I think some of it, and I've had this happen where it's like, I don't know, like a particular melody or a particular like phrase or even like one portion of the song will hit really hard, but then you don't know what you're going to do with the rest. And that's when it becomes one of those like weird chunk pieces that you just throw into the bucket and then go and retrieve out of the bucket again at a later time.
I have entire songs that were built around chunk pieces. There's shit in Dieselby's stuff that the original riff was written in high school.
Right.
Yeah. Like
of course.
the Thousand Bloody Nights that did it.
I'm gonna be saying that wasn't the first song though. The first song was Madness, right?
Madness, which was a psychobilly tune.
Which is my favorite of your songs so far. Anyway.
But yeah, what the deal with that one was like it was this riff that I had very vividly and clear in my head, but I was in high school and I wasn't fucking good enough to play it yet. So finally one day I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this out, and I played it just fine because my fingers knew what the fuck they were doing finally.
Yeah. There's a few pieces that I'm trying to work out on the piano that they're there. I know exactly what they fucking sound like. I can whistle them. I can sing them all day long, but then I'm just like teaching myself how to play the piano again. I'm like, dun, dun, dun. No. That's not right. And you go back and like rework.
Something about fucking up a note on a piano is just so much worse than almost any other. It's almost like the instrument is yelling at you like, no, you turd.
Yeah, it's a process, but I'm getting there because there's several of them that but yeah, you really have to like sound them out when you don't know what the notes are, but you know they sound like, and you think you know where your hand is supposed to go. It's just it's fun and grueling, but mostly fun.
Yeah, you grind it out, but like, how rewarding is it once you actually have a piece that like sounds the way you want it to or looks the way you want? You know what I mean? Just in general, like once you actually nail it, it's like, fuck yeah, I'm ready to kick the world in the ass with this thing.
I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but where you've got something that's like basically complete, but you still don't feel quite right about it yet until you almost have to play it for someone anyway, and then how things land gives you a better idea how they're supposed to land, but at home, like speculating about it, you almost overthink the whole thing, and you can't decide.
Well, the problem with art, in my opinion, is that even though it's a very internalized process to produce it, like the end goal is still presenting it and then kind of getting to geek out on how other people interpret it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I mean it's okay, gotcha. Yeah, art's great. We'll be right back. I gotta smoke, and we're running out of battery life here. I fucked that all up. Anyway, we have we're gonna do a poem. The first one is one that I'm totally requesting. She's Gonna Make a Killing is the name of the poem, correct? Yeah. It's on one of the Radio Free Denton episodes, so go give them a listen to. But the story is great. It's really just about a woman that's fucking had enough. And just the way you unfold the story is like, it's funny, it's entertaining, and it's really poignant. So we're going to listen to one, and then we'll give you a dealer's choice one at the end of the episode. But I'm the host, and we're listening to She's Gonna Make a Killing first. So
We're talking about a miss here, but there's something you'd better not miss here. She was 25, worked 9 to 5, and knew something was amiss here. Their backside, she was tired of kissing, the eternal day in, day out clock in. She worked too damn hard to let herself be barred. So to the CEO, she came a-knocking. She presented all her achievements. She showed him all of her numbers. She needed a raise, not just praise, for she outperformed the others. He didn't laugh at her once. He didn't laugh at her twice. He laughed in her face 3 damn times and proceeded with some shoddy advice. He says, "You got a pretty face. You clean up real nice. But in the business space, best know your place. Why not settle and be a wife?" So they spoke of promotion no more. He got up and showed her the door. She was left with only one feeling. Time to take down that corporate villain. When the year was done, the game she'd run, she was gonna make a killin'. She was gonna make a killin'. She was gonna make a killin'. So following Monday check-in, a scheduled business luncheon, a few peanuts misplaced while CEO stuffed his face, and nowhere to be found epinephrine. And things were questioned no more. A tragic accident, for sure. Now that position needed a fill-in. She was gonna make a killin'. She was gonna make a killin'. She was gonna make a killin'. Maybe this one's mind would be open. She knocked on the door, once again hoping. With the squeak of the door, 2 eyes into her bore, and they were no doubt a Roman. Her requests were dismissed as he stared at her lips, and her tush he even tried groping. So they spoke of promotion no more. He watched her walk out the door. She was left with only one feeling. Time to take out that perverse corporate villain. When the year was done, the game she'd run, she was gonna make a killin'. Oh man, she was gonna make a killin'. She was gonna make a killin'. And this one was gonna be easy. Like the CEO, he was sure sleazy. Evidence was found to his wife passed down, who with a gun placed him 6 feet deep in. And things were questioned no more. A murder of passion, for sure. Down the line, the position was shifting. She was gonna make a killin'. She was gonna make a killin'. She was gonna make a killin'. Things continued this way until one day, the CEO's chair she sat in. To employees and their concerns, she'd listen. Anyone witness knew that woman meant business. Now that girl makes a killin'.
This is Emma Ricks, and you're listening to the Warlord Radio Podcast.
Awesome.
Perfect. Hey, welcome back to Warlord Radio. That was She's Gonna Make a Killing. So tell us a little bit about that specific poem. Like, the source material I think is pretty self-explanatory, but like, how did you come up with the story, and like how did the actual writing process of that one go?
I'm trying to think. You know, I don't know exactly what brought it on, to be completely honest with you. I think sometimes I just kind of go down a rabbit hole of thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes something will catch. And so I might just be thinking of like, oh, I really like the sandwich. Oh, I wish we had more of like, you know, things here at work for like sandwiches. Then I think about the workplace and I think, what if I was in a different workplace? And I was like, what if I was in a corporate workplace? What if I was a person in a corporate workplace who got so sick of the same bullshit and over again that people have to deal with all the time? And what would I do about it? And then I thought like, well, what if I was being treated poorly by my higher management? And what if I knew there was no way out of it other than to kill them? And then I went to write that. So I guess that's how that started too.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a fucking awesome poem.
Do you have any particular poet influences? Do you have like a top tier of poets that you like and admire the most?
I have a very limited selection, to be honest with you. This might seem kind of silly, but the only poet that I can say that like really comes to the forefront of my mind and my memory of what they've written, Shel Silverstein.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big Shel Silverstein fan too. Do you know who Shel Silverstein is? Okay. Some of the, because he did The Light in the Attic, and he did Where the Sidewalk Ends and The Giving Tree, like the kids' books that he did. But
right.
He started off as like an underground comic and poet and songwriter during like the anti-comics era, like the Art Crumb.
Yeah.
Kind of like underground art, like real wild shit though. And some of his original like recordings and stuff are so fucking far out there. because that guy was just on another planet.
And I haven't even heard all of his stuff. If anything, I think I find sometimes poets that, if anything, and I hope it doesn't sound pretentious to say this, but relate more to than anything. Because sometimes I'll feel kind of like, well, I wish I had more exposure to different people like this, or I wish I knew other poets or things that might have had these kind of flavors or elements in their writing, and then I'll hear something and then look into it and realize that, oh shit, that's this person? That's really nice to know. If that makes sense. Like,
no,
Shel
you're basically
Silverstein,
like, so if you're taking like a Shel Silverstein poem, you're reverse engineering it and basically finding out like you're utilizing the same influences that he was utilizing to craft it, kind of without even knowing.
At the end of the day, you can never possibly know that.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, I found a lot of, you know, his books that he published were definitely like kind of childish, but anybody could enjoy them. If that makes sense.
Well, that's why I think they stuck with you. The children's poetry and children's stories tend to do that because they strip away all the bullshit
and they
get to
focus,
the point.
Yeah. But then, like, what was it? My little sister showed me one of his things. It was called, I think it's just called Espresso. But it's just about him, like, going through his day and, like, this bullshit that's happening. He's like, I guess I'll just have another shot of espresso. And I know it's, like, a really endearing... He keeps going back to, I'm just going to keep drinking this and it's going to be fine. I also really like Tom Waits. That was another one that I've been writing stuff for a very long amount of time. And I actually just read lyrics to No One Knows I'm Gone.
It's a great song.
Like, I fucking love those. Like, what is this? Who did this? And then I looked into it, and then that's when I was like, Tom Waits.
And then
I just kept going, and I didn't stop.
Decades of material to sit through there with that guy. Yeah, Frank's Wild Years is on my top 10 list of like all-time great albums, and that list is primarily 80s metal bands. So it's something saying that he made a slot on that list.
Right.
It's such a good fucking album, though.
Right.
I've got a couple of weird ones on that
It's
list.
like Sacred Heart, Tom Waits. You know.
No, actually, Back to Black, Amy Winehouse. That's a fucking great album. I'm not even going to apologize for that to anybody.
You shouldn't have to apologize.
It's so good. Fuck ever. That song makes me want to sip brandy and smoke cigars, or that album rather. But yeah, it's.
How about you? Do you have any particularly favorite poets or sources of inspiration?
I went older with it when I was coming up because I'm a real big mythology nerd. So when I read poetry, I read things like Rudyard Kipling, like the Just So stories, like how the leopard got his spots, that kind of thing, which kind of fit into the realm of poetry. I did a lot of Edgar Allan Poe when I was a kid, like a huge nerd. Still read a bunch of Edgar Allan Poe, if I'm gonna be totally
Poe's my favorite.
honest. Yeah,
honestly.
It's some of the darkest imagery. Not even dark, it's bleak. It's so fucking bleak. All of his writing is just so sad.
Yeah. Well, to me, I think Poe captured kind of the essence of despair.
Yes.
And if you like look up, his life story and things like that, it was filled with so much sadness and darkness, and that he really was like a kind of a sensitive soul that had all of these horrible things happen to him, and he kind of captured that in his poetry and in his stories.
Yes.
In a way that still resonates. I think that's pretty amazing.
It's fairly timeless. I was big on Shakespeare. Again, I'm really just throwing around how big of a nerd I was in high school right now.
Yeah.
Because Shakespeare was poetic, and because it was written in stanzas and iambic pentameter, but I mean it was an entire fucking play.
Right.
And I got to a point where I could read Shakespearean English just as quick as I read regular English and actually like comprehend it. I don't think I could do that anymore. I've taken too many shots to my noggin at this point.
Right.
But there was a while there where I did like UIL camps and shit, and I would crush because I was the only like high schooler that could do Shakespeare. And then I wasted all that potential with drugs and alcohol. Much like a Poe.
See, full circle.
But I would also throw Shel Silverstein into that hat. I still to this day, I mean, I have a 6-year-old, and I still read those books to him, and he still loves them. I'm probably gonna end up with I've been thinking I wanted a light, the logo from Light in the Attic, the head with the house on it. I'm probably gonna end up with that tattooed on me somewhere. Been thinking about that for years.
The Giving Tree still makes me cry like a fucking baby.
It's a fucking sad ass story. It's so fucking sad.
I tried to read it to a kid I was babysitting to, and I realized, like, don't you go, I mean, you can't just start crying in front of this kid.
Right?
Is this the
If you do, he owns your ass.
Shut up, you're crying.
My eyes are sweating. It's hot in Texas. Yeah.
The older you get, the sadder that book gets too, man.
Well, and that's kind of the point. Like, the potency holds true over an expanse of time.
Very
and that's what
much
makes
so.
it so nice. Or at least entertaining towards anyone that might look at it.
It certainly makes it like multi-generational for sure. Because if you read The Giving Tree for the first time when you're 10 years old, and then you read it once every decade, you're going to see that book from a completely different perspective up until you're the old man.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you're going to still cry because that book is so fucking sad.
Such a sad book. It's not even like, I mean, it's sad, but it's not even that it's sad. It's just like a reality, a heavy reality.
Yeah.
It's just
it's a heavy reality.
And maybe that's what makes it sad, but I don't know. It's kind of refreshing at the same time.
Oh, it's beautiful, but it's just like there are days where it's like I don't really want to feel that much emotion, so I'm gonna go read like If You Give a Mouse a Cookie.
Right.
Have kids, don't judge me. I have a kid.
Right.
I think my favorite book that my mom ever. So there was like the series of books that would always have googly eyes, and no matter like where you turn the page, you have these massive bloodshot googly eyes. And there was one called Katie Did It, and it was all about bugs and this murder mystery. And Katie Did was the one that wound up like murdering the person, but it was like this whole like investigator so and so, and all the art's like really kind of grungy and weird looking and uncomfortable. None of it like says comfortable to a kid, but like you're fascinated. It's like all these bugs and. Oh my gosh, Mr. Cockroach was murdered, and we're going to go over to his accountant, and he's going to have his play on things, and he's a centipede, and we got this guy. Weird stuff.
There was this string in like the early 90s where like all the kids' books just got really fucking twisted, and the art got really weird. Because do you remember, what was it? The Stinky Cheese Man?
Yes.
The art style in that book, it looks like a serial killer's fever dream.
It's not, none of the art is comfortable. And I remember like even, in younger years and stuff, and I knew this happened like with my friends, we also really loved the Where's Waldo books. Because not finding Waldo, it's seeing all the other fucked up shit that's happening.
Totally.
Like, major deep
serial killers.
So much sexual harassment, dude. Like anytime there's like a muscle beach, there's always some dude groping somebody.
Or someone getting nailed in the balls, or someone like about to, like their impending death is the spear that they're this close to, but they got stopped in that picture. Yeah, I don't know. I
love it when they hide really twisted shit in kids' books, though. It's like, because the world's kind of weird and twisted. Like, they should prepare kids for that at least a little bit.
Well, that was the original intention of the Grimm's fairy tales.
Well, that also that, like, hey, dumbass, if you wander into the woods, a wolf will fucking eat you.
Well, yeah, that was the world was a dangerous place.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you see a guy that looks like Waldo, you should probably get out of there because it's overcrowded and you're about to get groped.
Right.
That's actually not a bad point. I can totally see that. What if that was the entire point of that book? This guy's just like, I'm tired of seeing it. We got this guy. Fucking
he shows up and everything goes to shit.
Everything goes to shit. Fuck Waldo.
Damn it, Waldo.
But I mean, we also had the scary stories to tell in the dark when we were kids, and those were the art in those were so fucking great. I would get any image from any of those books tattooed on my body.
Those were amazing.
And the stories, while they still had that kind of like playful kid twist at the end, they got dark as shit. And they told some like classics, like The Girl with the Ribbon Around Her Neck, which that always scared the hell out of me. Because I've heard it, so many different ways, but it always scared the hell out of me when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, if you go back and read the original Grimm's tales, I mean, the wolf that eats Little Red Riding Hood's mother, eventually the woodsman cuts the wolf open, fills his belly full of stones, and throws him in the river. That's the actual ending of that.
Cinderella, the sisters are forced to wear red hot shoes and dance until they die.
Yeah. They also mangle their feet to try and get it into the glass slipper in the first
Hansel and
place.
Gretel kill and mutilate the witch. When they originally collected those stories from German folklore, is they toned them down when they first got them because they got them, going from village to village, oral tradition, and they got those, and they're like, all right, we need to scale these back a little bit.
Basically cautionary tales, all of them.
And we keep doing that. It is like they would never get away with reading the original texts of Grimm's fairy tales to kids now.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, is they've taken the edge away from Disney, where like Disney movies were notorious for scarring little kids. Like most of us have something of like Snow White or Pinocchio or Dumbo or something that when you're little, like scars your brain, but in a good way.
Did you ever see The Secret of Nimh?
Oh yeah. Or Watership Down.
Watership Down.
Fucking Watership Down.
I never watched Watership Down.
That movie
force a little kid
me.
to watch Watership Down.
I mean, that one understandably is like the Secret of Nimh was heavy, and I remember like watching like here are the other movies that we also make, and one of them was like the Dancing Rabbits. I'm like, that looks great, and Mom and Dad were like, we're not getting that one.
But see, like The Secret of Nimh, first off, it dealt with very heavy concepts like life and death and like sickness. Like the child is dying the whole fucking movie. And then the imagery in it was so scary. I mean, the great owl used to scare the piss out of me when I was a kid.
Well, just the evil rats, like it's like just the look at him, or even something like
even Nicodemus, who was like benevolent, was there was an uneasiness.
Well,
about
just
him,
the whole tone of it is that it got dark. Not the whole thing, there's plenty of times where there's like comic relief and then it's funny
crow and it's great
and stuff like that, but it actually got dark. And the same thing with like the Dark Crystal or Labyrinth is you look at them and it's so, I think, vital to have those outlets as a kid is because just by sanitizing everything, you're not doing kids a favor.
No, I don't agree. I don't disagree with you at all. I don't agree with the culture of like bubble wrap the world.
Yeah, just everything is nerfed where there's no sharp edges. Like art has to be completely dull. You're not allowed to get dark and all that kind of stuff.
I'm about to tell you kind of a fucked up thing I did one time to my kid.
I mean, it's appropriate. So.
But he was a baby, not a baby, he was about a year old, and we were sitting on the bed, and he kept crawling towards the edge of the bed, and I kept being like, you're gonna fall, and I pick him up and I move him to the middle of the bed, and he crawled to the edge of the bed, and I was like, you're gonna fall. And I did this for like days, just moving this kid to the middle of the bed, and finally I was just like, okay dude, and he crawled right off the bed, and he bumped his head, and he cried, and I picked him up, and he never did that shit again.
See?
You have to learn. Now, I'm saying, like, that's a fucked up thing to do to your kid, and I hugged him, and I comforted him, and I kissed his boo-boos afterwards, but at the same time, it was like, that was, in my mind as a parent, I was like, keep him as safe as possible for as long as you can, but eventually you have to learn the lesson.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot you can do about that. But things that like Shel Silverstein books and Stinky Cheese Man are actually fairly good at preparing them for some of that kind of stuff. Because
absolutely.
It's still given to them in a safe and non-threatening environment. Even though they're tackling a darker subject matter or something like that, it helps them kind of like... Our kids are... Their brains are wild, man.
Well, look at it this way. Like, I think for all of us is, like, we look back fondly on the things that at the time, like, scarred us.
That's so true. Like, I love the Black Cauldron.
Black Cauldron.
The Black Cauldron's a fucking awesome movie. That movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, though.
And I think part of that, too, is, like, I think it's a really healthy thing. If you don't get like some level of connection or some level of relatability to things that are dark and uncomfortable, or there's a bad outcome of, you don't necessarily know how to interpret the feelings of when you're in a place like that. Even if it's not a mouse stuck in a cage that's going to cut itself
You're not used to having
its own water dish. You're going to have to like go to work and deal with this bullshit thing, and unless you know what those concepts kind of are early on, that's I think where people have the hardest time when it comes to
you won't develop that sense. Like that gut feeling you get when you're in a shady situation or something like that. Or you just like the pressure in a room changes, and like we all know how to kind of pick up on some of those cues just naturally and instinctually. But like if you are never faced with that feeling ever, then when it happens, how the fuck are you supposed to interpret it properly?
You can't cope. And even then, sometimes you can't. But at least you're better off than if you'd never known in the first place.
Exactly. So I know that shit like that is very important, and I mean, like, you can overstep, because I tried to read Jack, some of Grimm's original fairy tales, and that was not a great idea.
Right.
Because we don't have to deal with him possibly getting eaten by a wolf in the woods. What we have to deal with is nature trails that he's too freaked out to go on because he thinks there's a fucking wolf in there.
Right.
Which is a legitimate fear.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know. You say that, and then you might be like taken out by a coyote.
It's a lot of just chucking darts at a wall, Parenthood. I'm gonna throw that out there. But I don't know, some of that source material, and like you said, when we were kids, we grew up with just some of the those Disney movies. Somebody died in all of them,
and it's great. I legitimately love those old Disney movies.
Like,
I think they're just pinnacle of art. I think they're great. It's like every cell in Snow White is hand drawn.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking gorgeous. It has a different look and tactile feel than anything that they could do with computers.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dragon in Sleeping
Cell
Beauty.
drawn animation is, if it's done properly,
just the look of the
beautiful.
dragon in Sleeping Beauty, that is worth watching that entire movie just for that.
Mm-hmm.
The demon, the Night on Bald Mountain in Fantasia,
Chernobog.
dude, that's one of those images that just sticks with you forever.
Yeah.
It's because it's so beautifully done.
And Fantasia, I think, is the pinnacle of all that, because it's the melding of music with animation, and there was no cheating. It's like they did it all. Like somebody had to draw millions of cells in, time it to the rhythm of these symphonic pieces. That is staggering.
Emma will probably be doing that by next year after she's done with her stop motion.
That's great. You totally should.
I'm really interested to see what you come up with. You have some really cool ideas.
So we've talked about the Leatherworks. We've talked about felting and music and belly dancing and poetry. But there's other things that you're into. What are some of the other things that you're doing right now? Actively. What are you pursuing at the moment?
You can say drinking on this show. We'll accept that as an answer.
Yeah. I've been pretty good about that. I would say. Pretty proud of myself.
And always bearing in mind that you're working a full-time gig, and there's all these hours that you have to dedicate to just existing, and it's a struggle to forcibly set time aside to do other things.
For sure. I think part of, I guess, what I'm working towards is still based off like speculation, because this is, getting more into the music side, the dancing side of things. Getting to do stuff like with your dad's radio show. I really like doing radio stuff. Like that's really cool.
Didn't you guys just do like a live show? Mm-hmm. Were you part of that?
They featured some of my poetry.
Okay.
That was something else, man.
Yeah.
I thought it was fucking awesome. I thought it was really fun.
So what's your
takeaway? You were in it.
Okay, so it's a comedy show, right?
Right, yeah.
A big part of comedy is timing.
Right.
Bone Doggy was so drunk he kept fucking up the timing. And it was making me crazy. I don't know if it was visible to the audience, but I was just like, dude, you're stepping on every fucking joke, you're blowing lines. Like it was I don't know, like I had a good time. It was fun, and for like how quickly we threw it together, I thought it was kind of entertaining.
I thought it was a really good time.
Well, that's what matters, is the audience enjoyed it. But,
was it a train wreck?
It had train wreck moments, but we kind of leaned into them and made them work.
Besides, you're not going to make your dad be sober on his birthday.
No, I can't make dad be sober on a Sunday.
I thought that was really cool. Do you think you guys are going to do more?
Yeah, we are. We're going to streamline it a little bit. That'd be a good place to showcase you on a little bit, because he likes to have musical acts on those kinds of things. Have a little variety show. That might be something you should talk to him about.
Yeah. Totally should. Why weren't you reading the poetry?
I just don't think we quite arranged it that way per se. It seemed like
I don't think he arranged anything.
I mean, it was well put together,
just
but
impose
a bit
yourself
more
into
together.
it. Just be like, yeah, I'm fucking reading it.
I would have just
If you had just stormed the stage with a pad of paper, I would have. Nobody would have stopped you. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Just distract him with a pizza and start reading poetry. That absolutely.
Hand him a shot.
Yeah.
Everyone has to snap when I'm done. Or I will have a breakdown.
That would be awesome, actually. like her eye just started twitching. She killed everybody up in there.
But yeah, no, I'm gonna go in this Saturday and do some more reading. Which means I've also got to write more.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I have scripts to write for him, which I have not started working on at all.
Do you just come with them and then give them to your dad, or does he give you like an outline and be like, this is what I want, and then you go off and do it?
I usually conceptualize the sketch, and then I write a treatment for it. Sometimes I'll write the dialogue for it, and then I give it to him, and he edits it. You know, usually, and he'll like pass it back to me sometimes, or not. It just kind of goes that way. He's driving that particular weird ass bus.
Right.
You've listened to the show, right?
Oh, sure. Like, and I've written a few things to give to him, and you know, then he'll kind of tweak it how it best fits in the show. I was thinking of doing something else like the mystery meat market, where it's like people make meat orders and they get it kind of right. Maybe, questionably. I feel like he can go somewhere with that, maybe.
Probably. No, that's the cool thing about him is like there's no bad ideas. You can literally throw anything at him and he'll be like, okay,
it's very encouraging. It's not like he's going to be like, well, fuck that.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to work in a skit where I was trying to summon a demon, and he told me I couldn't do that. But then I spun that to now we're going to do a crossroads skit where I'm going to find out how much it costs to become the world's best bass player from the devil, and it's not going to be that much. It's going to be like a tuna fish sandwich or something like that. He's like, yeah, man, with pimentos on it. I'm like, sweet, I'm the best bass player.
Homemade pimento cheese.
But actually, I want to get you in on that skit because I think I want Craig to play the devil. Just because that would be fun to me.
Yeah, I don't know how or when this may be an opportunity, but yeah, to play the devil in something, whether it's like a play or
it's
a movie
the fucking best. I did this story of
so
Joe.
You better
thing.
take that devil role because I'm envious of you.
Right.
Yeah, man. I played the devil in this. What was it called? I think it was called Joe, but it was basically like it was the Old Testament, but it was done it was a circus. And so I think it's the story of JB. That was the name of it. And I played Satan, the ringleader, just because I'm the loudest human being on the face of the fucking planet. But I was like, how do you want this played? And they were like, how do you think Satan is? And I was like, oh, I'm about to have fucking fun, dude. Because in my mind, Satan just gets to do whatever the fuck he wants at all times.
Do you have a favorite representation of Satan?
Ask her first. I'm going to think about that.
All right. Do you have a favorite representation of Satan?
That's a tough one because I haven't seen enough Satans. Like, I feel that's the size of all of mine.
Just of what you know.
Okay, so of what I know, there's so are you familiar with Repo the Genetic Opera?
Yes.
Okay. The same creators of that did something they called Devil's Carnival.
Right.
And so that was a pretty fun one, I thought, which is where basically hell is a carnival.
Okay.
Kind of hell, he's not a ring leader so much, but he's got all of the carnies are basically his demons and portions of hell.
Okay.
And they actually use some of the same fables you were talking about earlier.
Like the Grimm's Tales?
Yeah, the Grimm's Tales, to cast on like 3 sinners that have, done things based off some of those tales and then relate them into like a carnival themed.
Sounds awesome.
It's actually really cool. And they've got some good music and some interesting artists that are a part of it. One of them was the vocalist for Five Finger Death Punch, who I cannot stand, but he plays a hobo clown, and that's actually pretty cool. And he sings a song called like Penny for a Tale.
That seems right. He's kind of a hobo clown in general.
Yeah, but like, this time in a more interesting light. Like,
wasn't Ogre from Skinny Puppy in it?
Yes, he was. He played it's called like Reptile or something like that. Basically, he could change his form and the way that he looked, and so on and so forth. And so it's like one of the people is cast down for, basically kleptomania. And so they get tempted by like this big, gambling game by Ogre, who is playing this character that's like mirroring her and him as like the same person. And then this big diamond she could win, but she keeps having to like bet on it until she basically bets off her soul because she's too obsessed about the materialistic portion of it. Another one is like a chick who kept getting back together with this abusive dude, and she kept going back, and so they used the scorpion and the frog as a tale for that. And then the last one was focusing on grief, which is where father had lost his son, couldn't find him, and so he commits suicide, and that's why he's cast down to hell.
Okay.
And then basically their journey of going through this carnival and having to follow rules in order to get through or stay there forever. And so Satan there is a interesting, like, full-fledged kind of not Joker-esque face paint, but like in a robe, full-on claws and everything like that, just kind of like going through and dictating what's going on, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also know Tom Waits has played a Satan, and I also want to see that because I'm obviously a Tom Waits fanatic. That's pretty much it as far as Satans go.
All right, Carrick. So for you, do you have a favorite representation of Satan in movies or comics or whatever?
The Satan that looked the most badass was the one that Tim Curry played in Legend of Darkness. That was the fucking best. Like, it's so good. It looks awesome, dude. And he's like the voice and the whole thing.
You can't beat that one. It's a tough one.
But I mean, there's been representations of Satan that I've really enjoyed. Al Pacino's character in The Devil's Advocate was incredible.
Yeah, I love his monologue at the end.
Oh man, that was so fucking good. Yeah, that movie was just great. You were the one that actually turned me on to that because I had never seen it before. And then I went and watched it, and I was like, this movie is fucking outstanding.
Have you seen it?
You should check it. I think it's on Netflix.
It's a little bit. I believe it's from the late '90s. It's got Keanu Reeves, who's the weak point.
Charlize
Theron, and Al Pacino plays the devil character, and it's about a lawyer that never loses a case, and then he finds out why. But it's quite good. It's a little campy, just a little bit.
It's dated, is what it is.
A lot of movies like that seem kind of cute, from what I understand.
But it's got some stellar dialogue in it.
Yeah, for sure. And Al Pacino's performance in it is really good. There was this fucking show. It was so stupid. It's called Reaper. Did you ever watch that show? It was on like WB or some shit.
It's not John Bell.
It's about this guy. His parents wanted to have a kid, so they signed a deal with the devil, and like basically like you can conceive the kid, but on his 21st birthday or whatever the fuck, I get his soul. And they were like, yeah, we'll figure a way out of that by then, and they don't. And so the kid basically has to become like this bounty hunter from hell. Or for hell rather, and he has to like trap these demons and lost souls in like these random household objects, and that's kind of like the whole gist of the show. It's real dumb, real monster of the week, kind of like like not even as dark as Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
But Ray Wise, the guy that played Swamp Thing, and he's been in just tons of stuff. He plays the devil on that show, and it's essentially as if you played the devil as a Mercedes dealer. And he's just super slick. His hair's always perfect. He's tan. He's got that kind of like George Hamilton, Miami money look.
Right.
And he has this fucking grin. And the way he delivers these lines where it's just like, that's Satan. That's old white guy money. That's the devil right there. That's Wall Street shit. And so it's just a really good representation. And then, of course, there's Black Phillip. And how do you beat Black Phillip, dude? From The Witch. He's just a fucking spooky-ass goat.
Right.
Like, that's the best. That's the fucking best. Yeah, those are all of my Satans. How about you?
Well, I really love Al Pacino. Like I said, especially the ending of Devil's Advocate. Just everything that he says.
That I can't remember the monologue right now off the top of my head, but when first off, the scene is just nuts in general.
Yeah.
But then like it's
got a very Baroque like hell scene going on in the background.
Very Dante Alighieri kind of a vibe to it, like some divine comedy shit going on.
Nice.
But yeah, that monologue that he delivers at the end, and he's like, and Al Pacino's got like fire in his eyes anyway.
Yeah.
Because he's out there, but yeah.
I really love Robert De Niro in Angel Heart.
I have never seen Angel Heart.
That's one of my favorite movies, period. And I think that's one of the most subtly chilling depictions of evil because it is subtle, but very convincing. I just love the story. I think it's a great story.
What is the story behind Angel?
It is. It was made in the '80s. It had a young Mickey Rourke, and Robert De Niro is the evil character. I mean, that's the spoiler, but it's still worth watching. But it takes place in the 50s in New York and in New Orleans, and it's about a seedy, scummy private detective that is hired to find a crooner who has gone missing, and this mysterious figure shows up, and he's like, he owes me a debt, and so this Lucifer figure shows up to collect his debt, and then this unethical private detective is on the trail. He doesn't know
that he's the devil.
What's going on? He's just like, cool, a job, you'll pay me, right on. But one of the reasons I love it is an awesome job of capturing kind of the time and feel of like seedy post-war, first New York, but then like that jazzy subculture of New Orleans mixed with voodoo.
Yeah.
And it actually has like voodoo priestess in there and things like that. Like real stuff, not like Hollywood.
No, I've actually, I've got a friend, Lauren, I think you met her, has been taking me out to like these wild hoodoo like ritual. It's wild, man, but it's intense shit for real.
But the final twist of the story, which I haven't given away, is really good, and it's really good in the way that for me, like each time you watch it, it's layered in a way that you discover little details that are really interesting.
Yeah.
So it is like just one of them is when the detective gets hired by the shady character or whatever, is he doesn't take the first meeting with the shady character. It's these two lawyers that go in to hire him, and they're like, hey, we need you to meet our client. Our client has a job for you. Well, the name of the lawyers are Winesap and I forget the other one.
Wormwood?
No. Winesap and something else, but they're both names for apples.
Okay. That's a cool piece of imagery.
Oh, Winesap and Macintosh.
Okay.
And they're both names for apples. No, these aren't.
That's such a cool, subtle way to just kind of depict that detail.
You're not thinking of it when you watch it, but when you get to the end of the movie and you're like, see where it went, you're like, oh shit. And then you see that there's seeds planted the whole way from the beginning.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Also, can you imagine like them sitting at the table like, please need something other than like, what, sweet lady?
Yeah.
Where's the other?
Yeah, there's at least two guys that just had to come up with apple names. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, I was thinking you guys.
I need something better than Fuji, you guys.
It wasn't the devil, but the depiction of the demon in The Exorcist.
Yeah.
But then just the dialogue from Exorcist 3.
So fucking dark.
I love how they pulled that off, where they made just spoken words just chilling. Like they didn't have to have like crazy effects. They didn't have to, have gallons of blood, which nothing wrong with either of those. I'm a big fan of that. But the fact that they just had a guy sitting in a cell in a straitjacket, and you're like, that's fucking evil,
Did you ever see, what was the name of that Twilight Zone episode? Was it The Howling Man? Or something like that, where they, spoiler alert for anybody out there that hasn't seen the fucking Twilight Zone.
Hey man, don't be giving out spoilers for 50-year-old TV shows.
No, but basically it was like the story, because the way the Twilight Zone always was is like somebody has an idea, the universe says that's a stupid fucking idea, don't do that. Person tries that idea, universe slaps them down karmically for it. Like that's every episode. But this guy ends up in like this old monastery or something, and there's a guy downstairs that's just like howling and screaming for help, and it really does a really good job of like painting these monks out to look evil until the guy goes down and finds out that he's been deceived by the devil, and now the devil's loose and shit like that, and the monks were on the right side the whole time. But it's like, if you watch that episode, they plant little hints of that everywhere, because they do a really good job of kind of keeping that from you until it actually happens.
I think that's gotta be like the tough thing though. It's like where do you go between, suggesting like, well, this is obviously happening next to, oh, you didn't pay that much attention until it's like right there. Right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's got to be a
That's always
fine
really
line to
cool
walk.
writing.
Yeah. It's because there's sometimes when you read a story, it's got like a big ass twist at the end, and you can like, this writer has been just waiting to reveal this twist the whole fucking book.
Right.
Or there's other ones where there's a twist at the end, and you're like, the writer went to great pains to keep that hidden.
Right.
I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I mean, like, it's I don't know, like, can you imagine the force? Like, you would have to know details of that story that you couldn't possibly know until you were, I don't know, it's,
Oh yeah.
you know, like, as the author, you would have to know like certain things, like key points in that story that it would be really hard to write in advance and not arrive at naturally. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I guess that's the mark of a really good writer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the key is if you can go back and enjoy, if the twist enhances the story, then you're going to go back, and even though you know the twist, you're still going to enjoy reading about it or seeing it or whatever, because it's going to enhance the story, and then you'll pick up different details about the story that you didn't get the first time around. Or the other kind is where you see a twist once, and now there's no point in watching or reading that again.
Like the
Right.
crying game, spoiler alert, it's a wiener.
Yeah. or I mean, like, I am no fan of Shyamalan, but any of his movies.
I thought The Sixth Sense still holds up.
Yeah, but a second time?
Fun. I mean, yeah, it's dead, but it's still a decent movie.
I mean, just to me, it's just kind of like, his whole thing was that he was gonna pull a gotcha, and you're like, oh, okay, I didn't see that one coming, but now that I know it's coming,
Yeah, it totally takes the
worst offender, I would argue, would be The Village.
That movie fucking sucked. I figured out that twist in that movie before the credits were over.
I read a book that was basically that movie when I was like in grade school.
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite as dark per se, because it wasn't like that visual thing.
But it's
yeah.
the same general concept.
Yeah, exactly. It's people who wanted to go start a cult thing and
live in a commune somewhere.
Exactly. And
We're
then
living in
when
old
things
times.
got kind of out of control, then they cast, one of them had to get out.
I mean,
and
there's
then
nothing
like,
inherently wrong with that story. Like I said, it's just the way that he does twists is he's springing a surprise, as opposed to it is very tightly woven throughout the entirety of the story, and then you discover little things here and there.
I don't think, there wasn't really a twist ending, because he did the Glass trilogy or the Unbreakable trilogy. Have you seen those?
I've seen Unbreakable.
Unbreakable's great.
That's the one of his movies that I can stand.
Split is fantastic, not necessarily because it's a good movie, but because James McAvoy is a fucking killer actor.
Is this, so first off, when it comes to movies, I can be kind of like a lost cause because I don't see a lot of them, or I have missed a bunch of them. But you're talking about the ones that had to do with like what, Dr. Glass, Mr. Glass?
Yeah,
right?
Mr. Glass.
I'm the person that has the like 50 something different. He was my favorite part of watching. I did see Mr. Glass on 4th of July, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It was a good flick. It really was.
I liked it.
It was
cool.
better. It's better in
I like
context
Unbreakable.
with Split.
So.
Well, it's very, very much written in kind of the same vein, and then you find out that it's all kind of a shared universe thing. But it's a really it's an interesting story, but mostly those movies are decent because of the performers that are actually working them. You know what I mean?
I think if it had been lesser actors, then it probably wouldn't have been as much of a sell.
I absolutely agree.
So what have you been reading or listening to lately?
What do you do for entertainment other than just create everything?
I like to go see local shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, I see you in a lot of shows.
That's a lot of fun for me.
Like, who are some of your favorite local artists?
Like going to Rock, obviously not just because Andrew's a part of it. Like they're
a fucking killer band. Yeah,
they're fucking awesome. Like I've seen, and it's just fun. Sometimes like I don't always get the luxury of repeatedly going to shows either.
Right.
But just kind of walking in and then realizing, oh shit, this is that band. Like there are bands like Puddin'.
You put on a great show. Puddin' puts on a great fucking show.
Yeah, they're really eclectic and really great musicians. Yeah. Maybe not for everybody in some sense, but they're definitely great entertainers. Mm-hmm. I always feel put on the spot when I get that. Trying to remember all like the local stuff. Pearl Earl.
Pearl Earl's fucking great. Chelsea has been a friend of mine for a very long time. Red. Mm-hmm. She's just like probably one of the best drummers I've ever met.
She's
so fucking good.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, she's just rad. She did we did an Irish project together like a couple of years ago where we did like a St. Patty's show and did a bunch of traditional Irish folk tunes, and she played a bow drum, and it was awesome.
That's
speed it up, turn it into poem. There you go.
Well, I did.
Other than that, I mean, I still like to see movies and stuff, just like anybody else would, but with very like little direction. I'm not much of a movie buff. I can't say that I'm really much of a book buff either. Mm-hmm. I just, even if you look at like the music on my phone, half the time they're not complete albums. I like hear a song and I like it, and so I Shazam it, and then I have that song, and then I won't always go and look for the rest of them on the album for whatever reason. And,
you don't always need to do a deep dive. I mean, I do just because that's how my fucking brain works. But I appreciate people that could just enjoy something and fucking move on with their lives. I can't do that. Right. I'm like, nope, I heard this tech death song. That means I need to learn everything about tech death from the last 30 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I get fucking way into it. But I see you in a lot of shows. You on your social media and stuff, I see a lot of pictures. Like you do like Ren fairs and stuff, mm-hmm. which is a blast. Those
Ren
are always fun.
Fair. Have you been to Ren Fair?
Not exactly.
Okay, I highly suggest, because it is a fantastic time. Because it really is just like a bunch of people like living and working in a, modern age, but also not so much. Yeah. It's like when you work at those things, like, you've got your past and there's a disclaimer like, hey, some of this is kind of archaic as shit actually, and you put yourself at risk in that kind of sense. Mm-hmm. You could cut yourself on a spear and die technically.
You can't sue the people that are running the show.
Exactly. And I've gone to them forever, like as a kid growing up too. My parents have been doing that forever, and so they're all really fun to go to. But then I was like, well, what if I want to take this leather thing and like introduce it? I need to know what this feels like, what this is like. And so I worked with Rev's Leather Works. I worked for 3 fucking months straight. I had 1 day off between my pharmacy job, driving 4 hours over to like the Austin area where they've got Sherwood Forest Fair, and then it swapped over to Scarborough Fair, which is in Waxahachie.
And this fucking way out. There's like an hour and a half from here.
The drive was easier, but like at that point, I was just like, "What am I running on? Rum?
Just pure alcohol and beef ribs."
And so that was like a really, really interesting time, because then you got to see like the inner portion of everything, which is completely different than like when you are the outside element of all that.
Well, they do a really good job of like kind of keeping that fourth wall up a little bit, and like kayfabe, as I would use the term, which is a wrestling term. But I've never worked backstage, but I've heard stories, and it's just like apparently it gets a little like intense because people tend to take things too far sometimes.
I think that can go like with anything. Like if you let yourself get too far into anything, then you're going to see the nitty gritty ugly of that anything. Yeah. And so like being there, I made wonderful friends like that I will keep forever. Mm-hmm. But I also like stopped at a certain point. Like there are certain things that I was like, you know what?
Good.
I'm going to keep those things a mystery.
Yeah. Pump the brakes.
Not to mention when you go into those, because I mean a lot of the Ren performers, the guys that actually work for the festivals, those guys like run a circuit.
Yeah, they do. They own pieces of basically real estate out there. Some people rent booths, other people own them and have owned them for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. Scarborough Fair is actually owned by lawyers, and they'll never sell it because that's their playground. Yeah.
Sounds like one hell of a playground. That's the thing. Somebody always asks you, like, if you won $1 billion, what would you do? I would open the most bitch barrel Ren Fest you ever fucking saw in your life, dude. I would make a real dragon. Right. We would fucking have a real dragon. I would figure it out.
Call up Elon Musk and make it happen.
Like Super Strange, found a really interesting group of like intelligent, like proactive performers and what have you, people that are like super serious or super whimsical, and then also possibly the like end of the world post-apocalyptic group to hang out with, because everybody knows how to play with fire and swords and do all this like random shit that people have forgotten how to do.
Axes do not run out of bullets, my friends. They actually have it's not a Ren Fest, but in Australia they apparently have this giant festival that is a post-apocalyptic, like Thunder Road kind of.
They've got one in California apparently.
Oh, no shit?
No shit. Like there's some people around town too, including like a friend that I went to school with. They'll get old, kind of broken down cars, build them back up, and basically make a Fury Road situation.
Shit,
they go out to the deserts in California, and they just basically have like this gigantic fire brimstone on wheels festival.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah,
bro.
I think it's called Wastelands. That's what it's called.
Yeah, Wastelands. We should try and play that shit.
Right?
You should. It makes perfect sense.
It does.
Which, like that's not like
I'd drive out and do that.
fire. I really want to get into like fire dancing, fire poi.
Fire dancing is fucking awesome.
I've gotten poi. I've just hit myself in the face too many times to let it light on fire yet.
That's fair. That's the kind of thing that you really only fuck up once or twice before you just stop doing it.
Right.
Like people that juggle knives, you're either
I don't
good at
mind
it or
being
you're not.
redheaded. I don't actually want to have fire on.
It's like, she really committed to that bit.
Right.
Yep. And now I'm bald.
It looks like that.
And crinkly.
Hey, you could be. There's worse things in this world than being bald. What are you saying?
Right.
Nothing. Just via burned off by fire.
Right.
Yeah, that's not what happened. Mine was just nature kicking me in the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, no, I just derailed myself. Dumbass comment.
You wear it well.
I had nothing.
You were thinking about being set on fire. Have you been set on fire in wrestling?
Fuck yeah, I've been set on fire in wrestling, dude. Look at me. Of course
Right.
I've been set on fire.
Got all offended. I like it. How dare you come in here and ask me if I've been set on fire?
What they do
Here's
is
a
they,
match.
Right.
Do it now.
No, they put lighter fluid on like the folding tables.
Uh-huh.
And then set that thing on fire, and then you take a bump through the table, and it would usually go out with the impact because that
Right.
fire on there is like,
Not always.
not always.
Keyword,
And
usually.
what happened?
Depends on how much fluid they put on there.
Well, what happened to me? What had happened is I went through the table, and when it folded up, it just folded over, and so I was basically just in a fire sandwich. I was just like, I'm very hairy. This is a bad spot.
I would have taken that footage and like I don't know, used it
So
like a Klondike.
what happened? How
For a Klondike party.
How did you get out of that situation?
I actually.
He didn't.
I absolutely stopped, dropped, and rolled. Like I got that fucking table off me, and I just kept rolling around, making sure I wasn't on fucking fire. Then he kicked me in the head or something. I don't know.
At that point, you're like, what?
Yeah, at that point I was like, he wouldn't be kicking me if the fire was out.
Right. Pretty rad if he was. Though.
Yeah, it would have. But I think the gnarliest thing that I ever saw happen in wrestling, though, was you know how they do the light tubes,
Yeah.
like the big fluorescent light
Yeah.
tubes, and they'll smash them because they don't really hurt that much.
Right, because
Yeah,
they're
they
just
pop.
such thin glass.
Yeah, so if you swing them like a bat and pop them, they're cool. However, if you jab somebody with that really sharp edge, like that's still
a dagger.
Yeah, that's a dagger. And I watched this guy. What happened is he was coming behind him, and it was a spot. So he was gonna like fake stab him with the light, make it look kind of real, and jab him a bit, maybe get a little bit of blood out of him.
But just like poke him.
But what happened? He tripped over his own feet and ends up jabbing this dude like right in the back of his arm and taking this huge fucking chunk out of his arm.
God.
To the point, this almost never happens in pro wrestling because of, like they're trying to keep that show up. They're
Yeah,
trying
the
to keep
illusion.
the illusion up. But they called the match.
Yeah.
They were just like, nope, this is done. Paramedics are stepping in. They're taking this guy to the fucking hospital now. Because it was just this giant fucking hole, like right back in here is church meat where your mom pinches you in church. Dude, so nasty.
Gnarly.
That was really gnarly.
But the worst shit that happens in pro wrestling is almost always an accident. It's never the
sure.
mid stunt. You know what I mean?
I mean, I feel like half the preparation is knowing how to like, you know, take your falls, do this, do that, like make it look realistic without actually hurting yourself. So
yeah, you usually make contact, but you pull the punch because it's really hard to sell a fake fight without making contact. Like I've never really seen anybody do that successfully. And then there's other shit like when you see people jump off the top rope and land like on the concrete, like you can't fake gravity.
You can't fake concrete.
Yeah,
You know,
that's real concrete, that's real gravity, and that's a real big dude that just jumped off that fucking thing. So I mean, there's some aspects. It's staged, but I mean, it's very physical.
I mean, I went to the one that they had locally. It was like at one of the roller rinks and stuff.
Shit looks like it hurts.
Yeah,
It's
no, they did a
not
great
as
job.
fake as you think.
I had
Get up there.
a greater appreciation, like physically being there and watching it happen than even over on the watching on the TV.
Yeah. Because what they'll do, okay, it's like, here's a little trick that you may not know, is like, when you'll see somebody like ground and pound in wrestling, and you'll be like, oh man, those fists look fake, and there's a good one. Mm-hmm. It's because there's 5 whiffs, and then on the 6th,
connection.
Potato. Yeah. With like 5 fake hits on the 6th, potato. Like, there's a real punch in there. It's just not all 11 of them.
Yeah.
Because if you hit somebody in the face 11 times, it tends to fuck shit up.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's a very interesting industry.
The aerodynamic stuff is what like freaks me out, like the flips and like having to do like leg grabs onto a person that you didn't necessarily have to practice with. You just know the moves and hope that they're going to do their end of the bargain properly.
It's a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll meet the person that you're working with like right before the match, and you'll get to kind of run over it. You run over it with the referee a little bit, and then you go out there and you try and hit your spots without killing each other.
Yeah. And
then you have assholes out there that like to like act like they're tough and try and stretch people, and that never works out in anybody's favor. That's just 2 pissed off beefcakes in the middle of a fucking ring.
2 pissed off beefcakes. I feel like that could be a podcast.
Right.
2 pissed off beefcakes. That's the new name of this podcast.
Do you have any events coming up soon?
I think mostly what's going to be coming up is going to be probably on Radio Free Denton for more poetry, maybe a couple of tiny read-ins possibly, depending on what your dad wants to do. More stuff on Tiny Couch, because I need to put...
What's Tiny Couch?
So Tiny Couch is started by Bob Ralph here in town, and Bob Ralph's awesome. He used to own
Been
Banter.
around forever, yeah.
Okay. He was over at Selwyn when I was growing up. I went to school with his daughter, and yeah, he owned Banter. Eventually, like Banter closed down, but he continued having like this wonderful enthusiasm for like documenting live shows as a kind of a hobby.
Got good at it.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. So he's purchased the tech. It's kind of like his hobby, and so one thing he started was Tiny Couch Productions, and Tiny Couch Productions basically takes like local artists can come by, like he's got a portion of his apartment, it's a completely safe and wonderful environment, and basically we'll do like a nice, really simple video of you and your songs, and then we'll post them up. So where a lot of people have to kind of like figure out some kind of payment plan or do something, it's like a small scale, almost production tech company that's really not asking anything for you. And so it's really wholesome in that way, and he puts out really great videos.
And then he like actually works to like promote said videos and things like that.
So, I have to check that out.
Yeah, because
Bob Ralph's good people.
Yeah, he's fantastic people. He's the best. And every now and again, like I'll go in and help him like do like a shoot, or he's shown me some stuff with like the video editing and some like the.
So you've done some like filming and stuff.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So. Still really new with that. Like, I don't put that as a boasting point.
No, I love the fact that you don't give a shit. You're like, yeah, I'll do all of it. Just whatever.
Do you think? And I feel once again like there's just not enough time sometimes, because I'll be like, hey, do you have some time on this day to help me with this? And then I'll go off and do that, and we'll get to do it, and it's really exciting and fun. Because he does it for some of the poetry groups. He does it for like live shows, open mics, or just like one-on-one videos. And usually he'll just have like a side table with some cool, colorful candles, and it's just you and your instrument. Or sometimes it's more than one person, several people, and accompaniment. There was a thing that we did for submissions for Tiny Desk. So it was Tiny Couch helping Tiny Desk.
That was that NPR thing.
Yeah,
it was an NPR thing.
Yeah.
And
do they still do that?
I think so. We submitted a video one year.
Yeah, they did it within the past few months.
Okay, right.
And so we went to the apartment place and like cleared out this like really small wooden kind of rustic looking room that was where some of the artists live, and it was 2 vocalists. One played a guitar, a bright bass, drums, violin, and also another guitarist. And so they as a group like did kind of this folky sing-song thing, but they did it in like the warmth of this one room that you just had to have a desk somewhere, a tiny desk somewhere in there. It was like the one thing that they wanted to part of it. And so
that's the gig.
Put that together, and that was super fun. And then
cool.
Get that put out there. So yeah, it's just another one of the many small kind of collaborative movements that are going on around Denton that nobody necessarily knows about until they happen to come around.
Yeah, it's always weird because like you won't know something's going on until there's like something that you can do for it.
Right.
And then as soon as but then that will introduce you to like 5 other projects going on in 5 other different aspects, and it's just really good for networking around here. Like I am involved in too much crap.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start saying no to people at some point. I'm doing all kinds of
Stop
shit.
being such a slut.
I wish I could. It's so pretty.
What is the poem that we're going to do here at the end?
Dealer's choice. What do you think would be?
Let's see. Jesus. I'm trying to think of the ones you have, or the ones that were on the deck.
Anything that you have recorded.
Okay. She did. She's gonna make a killing.
I love that poem.
There's one called The Dock of the Lake or something like that.
The Dock of the Lake?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that one would be good.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bug Bone Doggy because he's got all the masters of your poems, and then I'm just going to rip the same shit that he's been putting on his and put it on here. Yeah. I get to do that because I was a kid.
Ooh.
Okay.
Actually, what's that one called? This is so bad. Ask your dad about the one about the woman who collects too many clocks.
Okay, I have heard that. What the fuck? I don't know if there was a title on that one.
Yeah, I don't think there was.
Okay, this is the next poem is going to be The Lady with the Clocks.
The Lady with the Clocks.
We're going to call her the Clock Lady.
There you go.
Like a lock lady.
Emma, I cannot thank you enough for coming out and doing our show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of what you do, and I'm excited to see what you do in the future. And also, I really want in on your puppet show.
Yeah.
I'm going to bug you about that.
you get into Radio Free Denton, and in exchange, you have to put it in the puppet show.
I'm good at voices, though. I'll do it well.
It's true. He's a pro.
Won't let you down, Coach. I have been paid. Okay.
You better get
You
it.
act like I'm giving you shit. I'm giving you a compliment. You get all defensive.
The first acting job I ever got paid for, I got paid in cold French fries and muscle relaxers.
That's right. When are you gonna start overdubbing porn?
You know how fun that would be, actually? Just like,
I bet it pays well.
Grab my hips, Trina.
Right?
I would go way over the top with it. It would be just so great. Got your pizza.
Especially if it was like, you know, like foreign porn, like Indian porn. Or
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
you know.
about. I don't think English. They wouldn't really need me to dub English porn. I don't think, unless the guy just started yelling racial slurs like right in the middle of it.
Right.
Like we gotta put it out there.
Right.
We already paid for it.
The voices don't match at all.
I am very tolerant of others.
Yes.
So, where can we find you on like your social media? Where do you peddle your wares?
Yeah.
I am on Facebook, although I probably won't accept your friend request unless I've met you
That's
at least
fair.
once. So that's probably
Facebook's a shady neighborhood.
Yeah.
What?
I did finally make an Instagram because I couldn't think of where else to go. Really, I have a Twitter, but that's because like a college professor made me do it.
Yeah.
And I still don't quite know how to navigate that one. I have an Etsy, but I accidentally misspelled the name of my own shop, and I need to fix it. So
How is it spelled now?
It doesn't matter.
It's spelled under construction.
Under construction, because they make it so convoluted to change it for reasons. But I'm on Instagram as E as in Emma, period. K as in Catherine, period. My last name, Ricks, which is R-I-C-K-S. And that features my felting, my leather stuff, some of my music, and just general goofiness that I think for the most part won't bother anybody too much to see.
Right on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very much. Go check out Emma Riggs, look at her leather work and the felting, and watch our sweet puppet show that I'm going to help with.
Yes.
And seriously, check out this poetry. If you are not already, I can say we can plug Dad's show on this show.
Yeah,
We've
of
already had
course.
him on here. Go to Radio Free Denton. I think almost every episode for like the last season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has at least one submission from Emma, and
Who's reading your poetry on the show?
I'm reading it.
You're reading it.
Okay.
And does great. It's, in my opinion, it's one of the better parts of the bit. Something about your delivery and your rhythm, it's entertaining to listen to.
That makes me really happy. The last thing I want is someone to be like, "Oh, this bitch again."
No, I think you have a good voice for the recitation of your own poetry. I really do. So yeah, go check out Radio Free Denton. It's on like all the lips and shit. And but yeah, you can hear me and Emma and probably soon Craig. So I'm gonna get you on that show. It'll be fun.
There you go.
But thank you so much for coming out, and
Yes.
we would love to have you out again once you start like getting the ball rolling in on all this stuff, and you actually have like stuff you want to promote. Come back out, and we'll get the word out.
Yeah.
Sweet.
When you get too big to talk to us, we'll have you back.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll appear with my posse and tell them to stay in the car.
I told you to stay in the car.
Right. No, thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you guys
We
for
really
having me.
appreciate it.
This is awesome.
Thank you for listening to Warlord Radio. We will be back in 2 weeks. How are we releasing these? 2 weeks?
Yep.
Okay, we will be back in 2 weeks. Fuck Park Weekends.
There you go.
All right, signing off, guys. Have a good night.
Later.
Coffee in the morning, liquor in the evening. Work hard, play hard, do it again. Roaches in the walls and chandeliers on the ceiling. Work hard, play hard, do it again. Pull up a chair to the table, my friend. Everyone's a winner. Guns in your pockets and old gold lockets. Flash a smile to your dealer. High rolling bets, Russian roulette. Unfold now, man, it ain't over yet. Been akin to sin since when should I begin? Work hard, play hard, do it again. This one's got the gumption, a rather quick assumption. Dances with corruption, sipping blood red wine. Forget the formalities, it's pearls before swine. Pull up a chair to the table, my friend. We each started as beginners. Temptation offers sweet sensation unless you delve too deep within her. That's why there's coffee in the morning, liquor in the evening. We work hard, we play hard, and we'll do it again.